Dear friends, today I'm going to take you on an emotional journey, a story of loss, hope, and an unexpected reunion that will leave you questioning fate itself. Imagine losing someone so precious that it leaves a void in your heart for 30 long years, only to find them again in the most unimaginable way. How far would you go to uncover the truth? What if everything you thought was lost came back when you least expected it? But before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more gripping stories just like this one. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. On a cold winter evening, with the wind howling outside, Rachel stood inside her grand mansion alongside her close friend Mercer. They gazed through the large window at the snow falling silently. The mansion, located in the heart of Los Angeles, was known for its luxurious exterior and elegant interior. To some, it was a dream home, but to Rachel, it felt like a cold, empty prison. The grand living room was adorned with extravagant chandeliers, designer furniture, and sophisticated artworks. Yet, she was the only one who lived there. Her wealth was among the greatest in the country. She had accumulated her fortune through real estate investments, growing it further through stocks and business ventures. People regarded Rachel as the epitome of success. But despite all her achievements, Rachel was engulfed by loneliness. She was in a position others envied, but she knew very well that it did not bring her true happiness. The reason for her deep solitude was singular: her daughter, Sophia. Sophia had gone missing 30 years ago when she was just 7 years old at an amusement park. The memory of that day still haunted Rachel, robbing her of sleep. It had been one of the rare occasions when Rachel decided to take a break from her busy schedule to spend time with her daughter. She took Sophia to the most famous amusement park in Orlando. That day, Sophia had the brightest smile in the world, riding the attractions and eating cotton candy. But that happiness was short-lived. In just a brief moment of distraction, Sophia vanished without a trace. Rachel immediately reported it to the police, and the entire amusement park was searched, but to no avail. There were no witnesses, no CCTV footage. All of Rachel's desperate efforts to find Sophia were in vain. As time passed, Rachel's despair only deepened. At first, she did everything within her power to find her daughter. She hired detectives, sought police assistance, and even got the media involved. But as the years went by, the world seemed to whisper cruelly for her to give up. For years after Sophia's disappearance, Rachel would break into tears at just the mention of her daughter's name. No matter how much she cried, all that came back was silence. Eventually, those around her told her she had to move on, but she could never fully let go. As 30 years passed, the memories of Sophia grew faint, but the pain never healed. After losing her daughter, Rachel cut herself off from all human relationships, burying herself in work. Her days were filled with chasing success, but her life grew emptier and emptier. Now, with her business stable and thriving, there was nothing else she needed. She had all the money and fame one could ask for, yet the emptiness inside her only grew with each passing day. Lately, Sophia had begun appearing more frequently in her dreams. In those dreams, Sophia always reached out her hand toward her, but Rachel would wake up before she could grasp it. Upon waking, an overwhelming sadness and guilt would consume her. I should have protected Sophia better, she sighed deeply, blaming herself. That evening, Rachel had planned to prepare a meal for herself, but, lacking the energy, she simply grabbed a cup of instant noodles. She knew she was isolating herself with this repetitive routine, yet the solitude felt oddly comforting. But at that moment, the phone rang. "If you keep staying home like this, you're going to get sick," said her friend Megan. "I know a little restaurant, cozy and welcoming, with great food and wonderful people. Come with me tonight." At first, Rachel refused, but Megan's persistent persuasion eventually wore her down, and she agreed. A few hours later, Megan picked her up, and they arrived at a quiet alleyway slightly removed from the bustling streets of Los Angeles. The exterior of the restaurant was simple, but the warm light spilling from its windows radiated an inviting atmosphere. As soon as they stepped inside, Rachel was greeted by the comforting aroma of homemade food, accompanied by soft background music. The walls were lined with handwritten notes and photographs left by customers. On each table sat a modest yet thoughtful flower arrangement. It was nothing like the high-end restaurants Rachel usually frequented, but the place exuded a warmth she couldn't quite explain. "This is the place I told you about," Megan said with a bright smile, leading Rachel to a table. Rachel felt slightly out of place, but followed Megan's lead, moved by her friend's enthusiasm. A waiter approached with water and a menu, and after placing their order, Rachel quietly observed her surroundings. The restaurant was pleasantly lively but not overcrowded, with guests chatting warmly, creating an inviting ambience. Her gaze wandered to a waitress moving efficiently between tables, engaging kindly with customers. The name on her tag read Emma. She was a young woman greeting customers with an effortless smile as she served meals and exchanged words with them. Emma's attentiveness to each guest, her natural charm, and the way she took care of people left an impression on Rachel. Before she realized it, Rachel found herself watching Emma closely. There was something oddly familiar about her. When Rachel's eyes drifted to the necklace hanging around Emma's neck, her heart suddenly pounded. It was identical to the one she had given Sophia 30 years ago, a small, delicate pendant shimmering silver. Rachel's breath caught in her throat as she stared, her mind racing. "That's impossible," she told herself. Yet, no matter how much she tried to deny it, the necklace was unmistakably the one she had custom-made for her lost daughter. Her hands trembled as she took a sip of cold water, trying to steady herself. How could this necklace be here? There was supposed to be only one in the world. Rachel kept staring at Emma, lost in thought, her heart hammering. But she couldn't bring herself to approach the young woman. What if she was mistaken? What if it was just a coincidence? If she confronted Emma and was wrong, her last shred of hope would be crushed. Their meals arrived, but Rachel couldn't focus on eating. Megan, unaware of her friend's turmoil, chatted about how delicious the food was, but Rachel barely heard her. Her mind was consumed by a single thought: Emma and that necklace. Could Sophia be alive? No, it's impossible, she tried to convince herself. But deep inside, a fragile hope began to take root. Eventually, she couldn't hold back any longer and turned to Megan. "That waitress, Emma. Do you know how she ended up working here? Does she have a story?" Megan looked surprised at the sudden question, but then smiled. "Oh, Emma. The owner recommended her. She's kind and hardworking. The customers love her." Rachel listened, her thoughts racing. She needed to know more, but she wasn't ready to face the truth just yet. Even after their meal ended, she couldn't stop thinking about the necklace. "Megan, wait here a moment," she said, standing up and walking slowly toward Emma. Her heart pounded violently, her breath shaky. She locked eyes on the necklace as she carefully spoke. "Excuse me, may I ask where you got that necklace?" Emma blinked in surprise and instinctively touched the pendant. "Oh, this," she said with a slight smile. "It's very special to me." She gently ran her fingers over it. "I've had it for as long as I can remember. My mother gave it to me." Rachel's heart stopped. "Your mother?" Her voice trembled. Emma nodded. "Yes, but I don't remember her. I grew up in an orphanage." Rachel felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. An orphanage? Her breath came in shallow gasps as she grasped her chest. She knew this wasn't just a coincidence. Rachel's mind spun as Emma's words echoed in her ears. An orphanage, the necklace. Every piece of the puzzle was falling into place, but she was terrified to believe it. She forced herself to take a deep breath, steadying her trembling hands. "May I take a closer look at it?" Rachel asked cautiously. Emma hesitated, looking slightly puzzled, but Rachel's earnest expression made her nod. She lifted the pendant slightly, allowing Rachel to see it clearly. Rachel's heart pounded as she studied the intricate details, the delicate engraving, the subtle shimmer, and the unmistakable name etched onto the back. It was identical to the one she had given Sophia all those years ago. A flood of emotions surged through her. She clutched her chest, struggling to contain the overwhelming wave of hope, fear, and sorrow. Emma looked concerned. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Rachel wiped at the tears threatening to spill from her eyes. I just realized how special that necklace truly is," she said, her voice unsteady. Emma offered a small, confused smile. "Yes, it's the only thing I have from my past. I don't remember my mother, but I was told she gave this to me before I was left at the orphanage." Rachel felt as if she couldn't breathe. Sophia had been 5 years old when she went missing. Emma had entered the orphanage at around the same age. It couldn't be a coincidence. Her heart raced faster, her emotions barely contained. Do you know how old you were when you arrived at the orphanage? Rachel asked, her voice almost a whisper. Emma thought for a moment. I don't remember much, but they told me I was around 5. Rachel's hands gripped the table to steady herself. 5 years old. It was the same time Sophia had disappeared. Her pulse pounded in her ears as she forced herself to ask the next question. What's your birth date? Emma tilted her head at the odd inquiry, but answered. Date is not confirmed, but I think February, 1993. Rachel's world tilted. February 15th, Sophia's birthday. It was her. She was certain now. Her daughter, whom she had searched for tirelessly, whom she had mourned for 3 decades, was standing right in front of her. Tears welled up in Rachel's eyes, but she held them back. She couldn't just blurt it out. This was too sudden. What if Emma wasn't ready for the truth? What if she rejected her? She forced herself to take a deep breath, steadying her trembling hands. Would you be willing to take a DNA test with me? Emma's brows knitted together. A DNA test? Yes, Rachel said carefully, her voice filled with emotion. There's a possibility that I might know something about your past. Emma studied her for a long moment, sensing the urgency in her words. A part of her was hesitant, but another part was curious. After a pause, she nodded. All right. I've always wondered about my past anyway. Rachel let out the breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Thank you, she said softly. A few days later, they sat in a sterile clinic, waiting for the results. Rachel's hands trembled as she clutched a tissue in her lap. This was the longest wait of her life. If the results were negative, she wasn't sure she could survive the heartbreak. But if they were positive? Her thoughts trailed off as the doctor finally walked in with a sealed envelope. Rachel held her breath. The doctor opened the results and looked at them carefully. Then he lifted his gaze and spoke. With 99.99% certainty, you are mother and daughter. The room spun. Rachel felt her heart shatter into pieces, pieces of grief, of relief, of 30 years' worth of longing. She reached for Emma, her hands trembling. Emma sat frozen, her breath shallow. Then tears filled her eyes. Rachel pulled her into a tight embrace, sobbing. I'm so sorry, she choked. I looked for you everywhere. I never stopped. Emma's arms slowly wrapped around her, her own tears falling freely. For the first time in her life, she felt something she had never known, belonging. The days that followed were overwhelming. Emma needed time to process everything. Suddenly having a mother, especially one as wealthy and influential as Rachel, was surreal. Rachel gave her space, but made sure Emma knew she wasn't going anywhere. One evening, they sat together in Rachel's home, sipping tea. Rachel looked at her daughter with gentle eyes. Emma, is there anything you've always wanted to do? Something you've dreamed of? Emma thought for a moment before speaking. I've always wanted to open a little cafe, a place where people can feel at home. Rachel smiled. Then let's do it. Emma blinked. Mom, that's a big step. Rachel reached across the table, taking her daughter's hand. You deserve to chase your dreams, sweetheart. I want to help you. Over the next few months, Rachel and Emma worked together to make the cafe a reality. Rachel provided financial support, while Emma poured her heart into designing the space. When the grand opening arrived, Emma stood outside, staring at the sign bearing the cafe's name. She had named it Sophia's Place. Rachel teared up at the sight. This is your dream, Emma, she said. You made this happen. Emma turned to her mother and smiled. No, Mom. We made this happen. The cafe quickly became popular, not just because of its warm atmosphere and delicious menu, but because of the touching story behind it. Customers admired Emma's journey and Rachel's unwavering love for the daughter she had lost but finally found. Every day, they shared meals, laughter, and conversations, making up for lost time. One evening, after closing the cafe, they stood outside, looking at the stars. Emma turned to her mother and asked softly, Mom, do you think we'll really be happy now? Rachel pulled her into a gentle hug, smiling warmly. Of course, sweetheart. Happiness isn't about what we lost. It's about what we build from here. And as they stood together, mother and daughter under the vast night sky, they knew this was their new beginning. The past no longer defined them. Their future was theirs to create, together. Friends, life has a strange way of bringing us full circle. Sometimes, the people we lose aren't truly gone. They're waiting for us in the most unexpected places. Rachel and Emma's story reminds us that no matter how dark the night gets, the dawn always brings hope. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with your friends and family. Let's spread messages of hope, resilience, and second chances. And remember, every ending is just a new beginning. If you want more powerful and emotional stories like this one, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'd also love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below about this story, and if you enjoyed this story, give it a big thumbs up. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that touch hearts and inspire change. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep believing in miracles.